Assalamu alaikum, my girls in grade 6. Here we will start in our first lesson in our book in the first term for grade 6. This book, The Diversity of Living Things. In this book, we will talk about all living things. First, what are the characteristics that all living things shared? Then, how the living things developed and evolved over the time, how they develop and change. Then in the next unit, in the second unit, we'll talk about the different classes of the living things. Okay, this book is very important. All the information inside this book, they look or they seem very easy, but they are very important. Inshallah, you will find it very easy. Let's start together. Our first lesson is Introduction to Living Things. For sure, this is not the first time we are talking about living things. We started talking about living things from grade 1. But for sure, our information build up year after year. Today we are going to talk about the shared characteristics between all living things. What do I mean by the shared characteristics? يعني in the great diversity of living things in the world, for sure there are different characteristics for each class of the living things, for sure. But all living things shared 5 characteristics. All of them, they have to have these characteristics. Besides their other specific characteristics in their class, for sure, this what we are going to learn later. But these 5 characteristics, the scientists set them as conditions or a criteria. Any living thing should have all of these 5 characteristics to be living thing. And that what we will understand, or we will know why scientists consider bacteria living thing, but viruses are not living things. Yani why they consider the bacteria as a living thing. Exactly, the bacteria is like the human in being a living thing, but the virus is not a living thing. Why? Because viruses don't have all these characteristics. Let's have a look at these characteristics quickly. Then we are going to talk about them one by one. Today we will try to memorize them all as what we had together. Then we will take the first characteristic only, and in the next parts of this lesson, inshallah, we will talk about the rest. These characteristics, all the characteristics, I summarized them in this slide. First, all living things are made of 1 or more cells, 2 or more. Okay, so all living things are made of 1 or more cells. Second, all living things sense and respond to the changes in the environment. We will learn what do we call the changes in the environment, and how we can understand the relationship between the changes and the response that the changes cause. So all living things sense and respond to changes in the environment. 3, all living things reproduce in different ways. We will learn some of these ways, inshallah, depending on the type of the living thing, but they have to reproduce. All of them, they are able to reproduce. You know what's the meaning of reproduce? يعني make more individuals of the same species. So make more individuals of the same species. 4, all living things need energy. Living things can't live without energy, can't do any activity necessary for the life without energy. All of them need energy. 5, all living things grow and change, at least during a period of the time in their lives. so we can say them quickly. As I told you, we have to memorize them by heart. And we had a lot of videos that talk about these characteristics. I put these videos on the course material. You can go back to these videos if you want anytime. First, all living things are made of one or more cells. Second, all living things sense and respond to changes in their environment. 3, all living things reproduce. 4, all living things need energy to carry out the activities of the life. 5, all living things grow and change during at least a part of their lives. Okay, now let's start in the first characteristic, which is that all living things are made of one or more cells. Let's first remember what is a cell. For sure, what we studied before, all of you, I think, you memorized the old definitions that the cells are the smallest unit of the life, or the cell is the smallest unit or building block of a living thing, or we can say of an organism. This is true. But here we will have a new definition, or a definition with different words to describe the cell in another way. The cell is a membrane-covered structure. What is the meaning of membrane-covered structure? That contains all of the materials necessary for the life. Yani, if we try to find the smallest unit of a living thing, it will be a structure, as what you see here. We have an example about animal cell and a plant cell. As what you see, a structure that has all the parts that are necessary for the life of the living thing. They are included inside a membrane. This, what do they mean by membrane covered structure? Yani it is smallest unit, and this unit is separated from the other units, separated by being inside a membrane, included inside a membrane. So this structure, as what you see, it includes all the organelles of the cell. For sure, you have an idea about it, and we have a revision at the beginning of this year in which we have the differences between animal cell and plant cell, and we remembered what are the most important organelles inside the cells. We talked about the nucleus, we talked about the mitochondria, the nucleus that controls the whole cell and the activities of the whole cell and the organism. The mitochondria that releases the energy, that produces, we consider it as the powerhouse of the cell. In the plant cell, the chloroplast, that includes the chlorophyll that is important for making food. All of these, we had an idea about them, and don't worry, we will take them in more details, inshallah, in the coming lessons. So this was only a reminding in the cell and the definition of the cell. What is the cell? Next, we will talk about the types of organisms depending on the number of cells. As what we said, that organisms all are made of one or more cells. In the first characteristics, we said all living things. It means all organisms too, the same. An organism is a living thing. An organism is a living thing. All living things are made of one or more cells. So we can divide them depending on this characteristic to two types of organisms. The first one is the unicellular organisms. What are unicellular organisms? From the name. They are made of only one cell. In other books, or sometimes in the next year, in grade 7, they use another name also. It can be. Sometimes they say single cellular organisms. single cellular organisms. يعني one cell. One cell. They are made of one cell. The whole organism is made of one cell. That's it. Okay, what is the other type? It is multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms. The word multi here means many, many. Okay? It can be few or billions of cells, depending on the size of the living thing. Okay, like there are small fungi that are made of, or protists or fungi, they are made of a group of cells. So they are multicellular. And there is the human or the huge animals that are made of billions of cells. Also, the plants, some big trees that are made of billions or of cells, and small plants that are made of less amount of cells. So it depends, more than one cell. All of them are called multicellular organisms, more than one cell. Okay, let's talk about the differences between them in more details. So, as what you see here, the organisms are divided into two types depending on the number of cells: unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular and multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms have one cell or single cell. If we talk about the classes of the living things or the types of living things, we can say that we can find unicellular organisms in bacteria, in the bacteria and the protists. Here they gave some examples only. Bacteria, for sure you will see in the next lessons. Bacterium, all of you know it. We will learn about another type also called archaea. It is not mentioned here. It will be in the next lessons. Also protists, such as the amoeba and the paramecium. Amoeba and the paramecium. Here are pictures about them. Let's make them bigger. Here is the paramecium that is made of one cell. Look at this cell. It includes all the organelles that this paramecium needs. It has cilia also. Some of the unicellular, they have cilia and flagella. What are the cilia? The cilia, they are structures that look like hair or hair-like structures. Okay, besides the flagella that is like the tail. They didn't talk about it in this lesson, but we will explain them in the lesson of the protists. Here in the second picture, or let's go to the amoeba first, because amoeba and paramecium both are protists. Look at this. The picture is not very clear, but it shows one cell. The amoeba, all the amoeba is made of one cell that include all the organelles that the amoeba need for surviving. Here also the bacteria, they show only the shape of the bacteria from outside. We don't have a picture here about the inside of the bacteria, but we will learn about it. This is only to know that the unicellular are made of one cell, as what you see here, many bacteria. Each one of them is one bacterium. One bacterium. Look, this is one, this is two, this is here, this is one that is dividing to make new two. This is what we will learn in the next lesson of the reproduction. Okay, let's go to the multicellular. Multicellular, all plants and animals are multicellular. You are, if you ask me, humans are included in the class or in the animal kingdom. That's what we will see in the classification of the living things. So when we say animals and plants, we include people in the kingdom. So the very important differences between the two types of organisms. First, that the unicellular are made of one cell, as what we have seen. The multicellular are made of more than one cell. So it differs also in the multicellular. If I told you that you and an ant both are multicellular, the ant's number of cells for sure is less than the number of the cells in your body, but both of you are made of multicellular. What is the condition here? That both of you are made of more than one cell. For sure there are differences between both of us, we and the ants and we, but in this classification both we are multicellular. The other difference between the unicellular and the multicellular, that we can say that the unicellular organisms are not specialized, while the multicellular cells are more specialized. The multicellular organisms cells are more specialized, or they are specialized. How? What does that mean? First of all, the meaning of specialization here, that they are, if we are talking about the unicellular, they are not specialized to do a specific function. So specialization, to be specific or to be specialized to do a specific function. If we are talking about the unicellular, as what you see, the whole organism is one cell only. If it is one cell only, that means this cell has to find all the basic needs of the living things. What are these basic needs that you learn in grade 2? What, or maybe from grade 1? All living things need food, water, air, that the living things need the air, if it was oxygen only, or oxygen and carbon dioxide, and shelter. If the organism is one cell, this cell should make or bring or get the food, okay, and it should find the water, it should get the oxygen. At the same time, it has to from the water, from the food and the oxygen, this organism will have the energy. Also, it should find the shelter. All the jobs will be done, all these functions will be done by one cell only. Like what you see here, look at this bacteria. It has these hair-like structures that are called cilia, and this flagella. These two types of structures help the bacteria to find its food and to enter it inside its body. So it can find the food in this way. Also here the paramecium and the amoeba, both of them, they have other ways or other mechanisms to can get the food, that what we will learn in the lesson of the protist. Also this Eugelina, as what you see, it has also flagella, the tail-like organ that helps it to can move. Also it has inside it a chlorophyll, as what you see, it's green, so it can make its own food. So this is about the unicellular. No specialization. Let's see what's the meaning of specialization in the multicellular. For sure, each cell should get the nutrients, the water, the oxygen. Every cell. These functions are the same for every cell. But in the multicellular, each cell has its specific job. It's very, very clear. Like here, look at these cells that exist in the human body. Look at the nerve cell, blood cells, and here are also the sperm, that are the sex cells. Okay, so each cell of these, besides being able to get the nutrients, the water, and the oxygen, they have their specific function. Like, let's talk as an example about the nerve cell. It has to move or transfer the order from the brain to the other parts in the body, in the nervous system. Also, it has to move the sensation from the other parts of the body to the brain. You will learn this in the next year, inshallah. So, this, what do we mean by multicellular cells are more specialized, while the unicellular are not specialized. Like this, we are done from the first part of lesson 1, and we will continue in other videos, inshallah, or in other periods.